the purpose of this video is to show you how to make animations repeat and give you a little bit more control over what these animations actually do. So, just to start with, we've got PowerPoint already open, and I'm just going to go to Shapes, and I'm going to insert this shape here. It doesn't matter what shape you use, you can do this animation technique with objects as well, but I'm just going to do it with this. You can also do it with pictures, so any pictures you find from the internet, you can still use these animation techniques as well. So I'm going to select my object, animations, again remembering that if you don't click on the object, these animations will be grayed out. So let's say I wanted to have my animation so it has a colour pulse. Now if we viewed that as an animation, you would actually see that it just flashes once and then we move on. Now you might want it to be a case that that animation actually repeats. Now you could add animation, colour pulse, add again, and then you end up with lots and lots of these, but it's not going to repeat forever, it's just going to repeat a few times. So if we open up our animation pane here, you can see that I added it 3 times. So let's go ahead and get rid of them because we don't want to use that method. What we're going to do is instead, with this animation pane open, okay, drop down there on the far right side, and we're going to go to Effect Options. Now this is where we get a lot more control over what our animations do. So I can choose what colour it's going to flash to. You can choose more colours, you can choose custom colours. So there are hundreds of thousands of different variations that you could choose from. So I'm actually going to make mine flash, let's go for yellow perhaps. So we'll make it flash yellow. So it's going to go blue to yellow. Now, if we go to timing, if we do on click, that means that the person viewing your presentation or using your presentation has to actually click for it to activate this. Well, if I set this with previous, when the screen loads, it will just automatically start with this animation. Now I can choose the duration, so I could slow my animation down a little bit, so I'll make it 2-second flash. And you can actually get it to repeat, so you can say until the end of the slide. So until we actually leave this slide, this will repeat, which means that it's just going to keep going and going and going until someone actually chooses it to stop. You can also choose a delay, so you might want to give it a slight delay. So we push OK, you can actually see that it's running through my animation at the moment, and it's only run through once because it's going to loop forever. So where you see these little segments, that shows the loops. So if I actually went into my slideshow now, I'll swap my display so you can see them both. You can actually see that it's just going to keep pulsing, and it's just going to keep flashing. Now that might be very useful if you wanted to have a button or some way that you're navigating through your slides. So if I inserted text here, I could have the option that said click me, which means that it's to attract the user's attention. So if I put that here, maybe make that a little bit more obvious, and then you can use these buttons here just to increase the size of the text one by one so that you can see how it actually looks. And let's get that in a position that I quite like it. So now let's have a look and see what that one looks like. So you can see that this could be something quite eye-catching, so someone knows where to click on your slides. So if you're a really busy slide and you want someone to be attracted to a certain area of your slide to click something to move on to the next part of your presentation, then this animation method is really useful for doing that. Don't forget, with these animations, you can get it to repeat lots of different types of animations. So if I remove this one, and I'll show you some of the dangers of choosing some of the other ones. I would recommend that you only repeat the ones that are the emphasis ones, so the yellow ones. And I'll show you why. So let's say we had a, let's go for a fly in one. So that one just flies in. I'm not going to do the text at the same time, I'm just going to show you with the star. If I then went to the settings here, I did my drop down, effect options, and then I went to timing, and I did this one so that it was with previous, so as soon as the presentation starts it's going to run that. I could change this to 2, I could change the delay, and I could have this repeat. Let's say repeat again until end of slide. So now what's going to happen is it's going to fly in, and then it's going to exit again. So if we look at what happens here, you'll see why it's probably best not to use this kind of technique with flying in and flying out, because you can just see it looks a little bit odd. It doesn't really flow with the presentation. It's not really, it's going to attract someone's attention but in the wrong way, so it doesn't look particularly nice, doesn't look particularly appealing. So I would definitely recommend that you stick to using these different methods here. You can get something to change, so I could show you the grow and shrink ones. So you can get something to grow. You could then also add an animation so that it shrinks again. So we want it to grow and shrink, and I'm going to add another animation, grow and shrink as well. So it adds this. So let's go into these effect options. You can say start with previous. So it's going to go through. It's going to do an animation. It's going to add one object, and you can see that the size is getting larger. Now if we click OK on there, you can see it's got bigger. Now you might want in the next one, if we did start after previous, you can see that this one's going to change. So what our aim here is to try and get these to link with each other so that they grow and shrink in the same kind of way. So this one is going to go smaller, so it's going to shrink it. It's going to get smaller. So if we played these together, you see it gets bigger, gets smaller, and then we can loop it so it goes round. Now the idea with this is that you can play around with these effects and you can come up with some different ways and some different effects that these are going to have. You can do auto reverse on here, which gives you that effect even easier. So if you go through, it gets bigger and then smaller again. So there are ways to get something that is quite eye-catching and quite appealing to people to see. So let's go back into that one and I'll show you how this looks as a presentation. So it's getting bigger and then shrinking again and bigger. So you could have something that actually looks like it's pulsing. So if we had this as a slide, you might make this a bit smaller, and you might have this in the corner of your page. You might have a click me. So let's change that to make it smaller. Move that across there. And you might have that somewhere like this. So if you had lots and lots of other things going on in the rest of your slide, and then you've got this over here, it then attracts people's attention to click on that, to then move on to other parts of the slide, and it gives them a clear direction of what they need to do. People like knowing what they need to do and how they need to do it. Now I hope you found that tutorial very helpful, and I'll be very interested to see what you guys can create with that now.